Hello and welcome everyone to our live stream this week. I have a very special guest who I'll introduce in just a second. But I'm Avi. I'm the founder and CEO at Avero Advisors. We are an independent third-party consulting firm that focuses on local government and modernizing their operations through technology. We go live every week, and you can check out the past episodes and podcasts, all of it on our website. Please go subscribe. There's a lot of great stuff on here. So before we begin, I want to introduce Vidhu Shekhar, my good friend. Vidhu, welcome.
Hi, Avi. So glad. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
I will say this on the record. This is one of my favorite podcasts to come on. And I was very glad when you invited me back since the last time.
yeah. No, you're a repeat guest here, and we look forward to every time you're available to come talk to us. So thank you. And in by way of introduction, I know I've done this before, but Vidhu is a big shot in terms of AI. Come on, let me introduce you. I'm introducing you. He's on the speaking circuit. He works for Microsoft and is also now on the Space Force Association's management team. And you'll have to tell us more about that, Vidhu. But leading voice in AI, of course, as a Microsoft um, employee or leader, you're at the forefront of AI. You wrote a book on AI and government 2 years ago before people even knew what was going on. So really, really thrilled to have you on, Vidhu. Anything else you want to add to your illustrious
No,
intro?
except that I have been extremely privileged to have sort of this front row seat, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you think about what has happened in the last couple of years, I certainly want to echo the privilege of being a Microsoft employee, right? And seeing Microsoft lead from the front
Hmm.
in sort of this AI race of sorts, if you will. But I would also sort of add to it, I've been really, really privileged to work with some of the most pioneering government organizations at the state and local level, as well as at the federal level, in terms of responsible AI adoption, right?
Hmm.
And so I'm super excited that we have this opportunity to kind of talk a little bit about some very real world use cases, right? AI
Yeah.
is no longer a fantasy, it's no longer sci fi, it's no longer the scariness that Skynet has brought with it in the Terminator movies. We are seeing some very, very strong evidence of how work is changing and what the future of work looks like. And you mentioned briefly about the Space Force Association. Extremely lucky and privileged again to be selected by the leadership team at the Space Force Association. My role with them is focused on growing their chapter operations and helping streamline them. As you imagine, the U.S. Space Force, the first of its kind globally,
Hmm.
is focused on making sure that the country is in a place where space as well as space associated activities, satellites,
Yeah.
cybersecurity, all of that is secure. And of course, a big part of that is beyond just what our guardians do, is bringing industry in
Hmm.
and bringing academia in a way that brings that collaboration that we've seen so successfully happen in other parts of the Department of Defense, Department of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, you name it, right? And so
Yeah.
the Space Force Association's goal is to foster that collaboration. And in my role as the Deputy Vice President of Chapter Operations, I will have the privilege of working with chapter leaders across the country, including our Space Force International chapter, to make sure that we are able to, one, bring sort of that consistency of approach across industry and Space Force, but also really bring the core innovations, especially innovations around AI. And we will talk a little bit about how AI data centers might be ending up in space as well.
Hmm. Well, I had the privilege of going to Mar-a-Lago in February of this year for the Space Tech and Nuclear Tech Conference. So why are we talking about space and nuclear when the topic says AI and GovTech, right? Let's connect those dots. And what
Yes.
I learned, Viru, is it's all connected, obviously. Why do you want to go to space? Because there's some minerals up there, one reason, that can power our nuclear facilities. And we're woefully behind our adversaries, right, in terms of nuclear energy. And we're starting to spin that up. It needs some natural resources, which we have here on Earth, but they're not plentiful like they are on the moon or Mars. So that's one connection. Plus, as you're trying to achieve, um, flight to Mars or other planets, you're trying to also develop solar power. You're developing battery technologies. All of that is coming into play with advanced AI helping us figure those puzzles out. But AI is
Mhm.
going to need the power, so you need to figure out nuclear energy. It's all connected. Tell me what you think.
Power and
Yeah.
energy is, I think, the basis that we need to solve,
Hmm.
really, for us to unlock the full potential of AI and the path to being a quantum ready country, right?
Yeah.
And as we kind of look at it, and you've probably seen this over the last several months from a federal policy making, Project Stargate. The whole
Hmm.
notion around Project Stargate is, how do we create enough compute capacity in the country to lead the AI, race as it
Yeah.
relates to some of our other adversaries, if you will.
Yeah.
But really, the piece is, there's limited land, there's limited power consumption. And so, how do we expand in a way that helps us be sustainable? Very simple, right? There's a conversation around AI sustainability has come up multiple times. In fact, I was reading there's a Y Combinator startup by the name of Star Cloud, if I remember correctly. And they are trying to put data centers in space. And I
Hmm.
think that's a great idea. One, because, well, you don't need as much space, right? Physical space, right? So you're freeing up land.
Yeah.
But second, cooling costs and energy production and energy transmission costs are also key variables that are going to impact how fast we can build data centers.
Yeah.
And when you're in space, you have direct access to solar energy. Space, when there's no sunlight, cools down way faster, right? And so there is this perfect storm, if you will, of the intent to move towards space operations and sort of the momentum around AI and the need to really look at that as the next frontier.
All right. So, having said all of that, let's bring it back down to Earth for a second. Um, I think the government sector has gone through a discovery phase. You talked to leaders last year, right? And I'm talking about, mid-tier cities, not necessarily states or the feds. And around this time last year, there was the talk was, we've heard of AI, we've heard of GPT.
Yeah.
Then it became, yeah, but where legal says no, or IT says no. And then all of a sudden it became, oh, we better start moving on this. So the danger of that became then a lot of failed AI projects, right? Because you
Mhm.
you don't just move and buy something that seems shiny. You need to have a policy and a strategy behind it. Lots of cool stuff out there. Every day there's a new product. And how do you win in this space then? As a government entity, you don't necessarily need to win the race. I think that there's a big race going on in terms of Microsoft and Grok and everyone else that has their own LLMs. But tell me how there's a direct line between developments happening at the global level and local government entities.
Very good question, and perhaps a very tough one for me to answer uh, in a straightforward way. But while I'll tell you, and you might remember this over the last couple of years, when I've been at forums like the National League of Cities or the National Association of Counties, or even the Government Finance Officers Association,
Hmm.
right? I get to interact with a wide cross section of governments, governments that serve a few thousand people to government that serve several million people, right? And the key piece for them have been, hey, vendors are just coming at us and
Hmm.
they are saying we have the next best thing since sliced bread, and this is why you need to use it.
Yeah.
And they want to use it, but they don't know where to start,
Yeah.
right? And from my perspective, the biggest piece is, as a government entity of any scale and any size, you are data stewards of your citizens' data.
Hmm.
And that is very critical. And when we see any random product, and you've probably seen this in the industry as well, several AI products are just AI wrappers. And what
Mm-hmm.
I mean by that is they are just a new UI shell over another model. One model may be an OpenAI model, an Anthropic model, a Mistral model, a Grok model, you name it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a wrapper, a shell around that product. And we've seen things like meeting transcriptions. We've seen RFP generators. We've seen image generators, all sorts of things out there. But really, what governments need, and especially smaller governments, because they are one, strapped for human resources,
Mm-hmm.
and then second, they impact the lives of their residents in a much larger way. And what they need is something that can be put in the enterprise environment and works from day one
Yeah.
and works in a way that has the responsible AI principles built into it. And to your question of how Microsoft is able to kind of lead in this, well, we have from the get go been very, very candid about responsible AI being built into all of our AI approach. And this predates generative AI, right?
Yeah.
Even when we were thinking about simple machine learning models, we wanted to make sure that we approached it from a lens of fairness, having privacy and security, safety and reliability built into it, all from a notion of having transparency and inclusiveness. But importantly, the most important principle for us was accountability. And that word accountability is synonymous with government operations,
Yeah.
right? And this is where we have seen the conversations we've been able to have is let's not go and reinvent processes. Let's start with the right set of use policies. Oh, you're getting a new guest come on today?
I think so. Spider-Man's coming on. All right.
uh, so how you got to start with some really solid use policies.
Yeah.
Really focus on identifying where your processes are broken, because AI is not going to magically fix your process. And
We
this
might
is
break
where
it.
Microsoft's approach
Yeah.
has been: start with how you do work,
Mm-hmm.
remove the drudgery from work before you think about going and reinventing your entire process maps.
Yeah. But that's the boring part, right? It's not exciting. What are you talking about, Vidhu? Like I want the thing that does the thing today. And I don't care about the infrastructure. I don't care about the grand strategy or the vision. I think that's where people are getting hung up. I mean, I had a conversation earlier this week about, hey, we're doing some trial projects and pilots, and as we are 6 to 8 months down this road, now we're starting to think about, do we have the infrastructure? Should we be building our own server farms? Or what stack do we build on? And my question was, what's the end goal? Like, what are you trying to get to? That
Mhm.
defines a lot of this, right? And I think to their credit, or just general market in general, things are changing so quickly in terms of the models and who's leading today versus who was leading yesterday, that is hard to sort of land on something and commit to it today.
Yep.
As a leader, how would you recommend people think about the quickly changing landscape?
The first thing I would tell people is we need to stop thinking about models, because models are a commodity, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
plug and play. The equivalent is how often do you think about which particular brand of gas do you want to fill? Do you care about whether it's a Shell or a BP or an Arco, as opposed to caring about what is the octane level of gas,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it premium fuel or regular fuel? And that's, I think, the key, because we are starting to see the whole notion around model as a service, where
Yeah.
models become plug and play. And if you
Mm-hmm.
especially see what has happened since DeepSeek was launched, the inference costs have significantly dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And so the notion around which model to use becomes slightly less important unless you're doing groundbreaking research work.
Yeah.
And 99 point significant number of government entities are not doing that level of research work, unless, of course, you're a national lab or a regional lab. And so Model as a service is going to become the prevalent notion, which also means that there are certain cost parameters around model as a service that you can start going and looking at, because cost has been a big issue. Token costs, how much are you spending? And when
Hmm.
people go and do these AI proof of concepts, they don't necessarily think through how is it going to scale.
Yeah.
They look at the proof of concept through a lens of limited prompts, through a lens of limited responses from their prompts. So there's another concept that's been catching up, and that's called semantic caching. Not unlike what we talk about caching from an internet browser perspective.
Hmm.
If the context of responses and prompts are similar, they can reuse it in these environments. And this is something I'm going to talk about, Azure OpenAI and our AI Foundry. That does it really well. So what happens in this is, one, you can use any number of models. In fact, you can plug and play models behind the scenes, leaving the end user experience the same. And then
Yeah.
the second, your model operational cost drops through semantic caching. Cost is such a big parameter in overcoming this AI production paradox. And what I mean that is that step from moving from a proof of concept into production and operationalizing that system comes down to, are we actually saving money and streamlining processes, or is it just a science experiment?
Well, and it's going to get more important as we get deeper into deployment of these applications, agents, call it what you may, right? And let's talk about the White House announcement of the policy that's coming out. I covered it a little bit last week, but you're more on the front line. I'm just a news consumer. So tell me what that is intended for and what it's going to do.
Well, I mean, I think the AI action plan is a very good step forward
Yeah.
for all of us, right? There has been some concerns that, if you remember, as the one big beautiful bill was in the House, there was concern around putting a moratorium around AI regulation,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that was taken off the bill by a 99-1 vote.
Right.
What the AI action plan does, it refocuses the efforts on American AI dominance,
Hmm.
both from an infrastructure perspective, but also from a workforce perspective. And this is perhaps the piece that I'm most excited about. It's not just about the AI technology, but it's also about making sure AI technology works for everyone. And you probably hear me talk a lot about this. It's about diffusing that technology, the democratization of this technology. Because unless everybody gets to use it, we are actually not going to see the societal benefits of using AI. Right?
Right.
It's the same thing that happened with internet. It's the same thing that happened with cell phones. When it was limited to a few people, I mean, you probably remember my comments around ARPANET. Most people might not even remember what ARPANET is. It
No.
certainly predates my birth. And so not many people knew about it. But fast forward a couple of decades, when commercial internet became relevant, now can you imagine a life without internet and what it would do for us? It would be very difficult for me, for someone who's always connected, right?
Yeah.
Part of that AI dominance piece is the AI infrastructure. And if you trace back to Project Stargate, if it takes back to our earlier conversation during the podcast around, looking at putting data centers in space, how do we take all of that progress and actually formalize it in a plan where there is consistent investment? A big piece of it is already in motion, I think, and this is where I'm going to connect a couple of dots. If you're looking at the trade talks, there's significant amounts of investments coming in. Japan's probably one that is an outlier that I think we should talk about. SoftBank Vision Fund very early on stepped in and said, put in massive support
Yeah.
behind Project Stargate. I think there's other entities. NTT Tech is going to be a big one. They are already a major data center operator and provider, perhaps either leading or a close second to Rackspace in the data center industry. And so we're going to see some major investments happening. I do think cities, especially smaller cities, need to pay a lot of importance to this, especially in the heartland.
Hmm.
Why? Because if you look at the plan for Project Target, and this is where I think it's very important for folks to think about it beyond just an AI project. The reality is these are economic development projects. They
Yeah.
are fundamentally changing land use, and as a result of that, becoming job drivers in those markets, leading to need for more housing, more infrastructure, more education. And for those small cities and counties to be able to meet that need, they need to start planning yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I think folks like yourself will come in very handy, because I think getting ahead of that curve is going to be extremely important. A great example, and I think if you've been to DC and if you go um, down Highway 7 to either Leesburg, Loudoun County, that entire corridor, the data center corridor,
Hmm.
they've fundamentally changed land use. There is literally millions of square foot of data center space that has been built out there in the last 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
including Amazon's second headquarters that's in Arlington, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's getting ahead of that curve and planning for that, putting in the right service delivery mechanisms, and of course, I'll be remiss if I don't mention AI can help in that.
Yeah. Well, in our backyard here in Knoxville, Oak Ridge National Labs, TVA, huge assets to this community. TVA is starting to build nuclear power plants. I mean, they already have some, but it's small modular. They're getting into it, uh,
Yep.
and Oak Ridge Labs is doing the amazing research on power. So I think the wheels are in motion, and you're right in terms of economic development. Uh, Counties and cities and chambers of commerce need to be thinking about how they're going to promote their own regions for this next wave.
Yes, yes. If you remember, we've seen this happen a couple of times.
Yeah,
When Amazon was searching for their second headquarters,
yeah, warehouses.
uh, when Tesla was out there trying to set up, Giga Tesla, I think it was ended up in Texas, but I think
Hmm.
Oklahoma had a pretty good bit in there. A couple of other Kansas, I think, was in the running as well. And so the notion around attracting businesses and attracting data centers is going to be very interesting, because, well, it's not just about space and incentives, it's also about energy.
Yeah.
It's also about having the right workforce, having the
Hmm.
right workforce pipeline, right? And so it's pretty interesting continuum um, that a lot of tech companies are facing as well, that I think governments are going to start having to think about.
So as you know, individuals that are just entering the workforce, um, you're starting to see some challenges, right? There's a notion that, let's just take junior developers, not necessarily finding the kind of work that they used to 2 years ago or last year. How do we retool our um, recent graduates in, let's just say, computer science, right? They've got coding degrees and they've built things from scratch. There is a huge place for that talent in this new economy, even though code is writing itself now. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I think, yes, code is writing itself, but the key skills around problem solving, analytics, they don't go away, right?
Hmm.
You still need to think about, what is that code going to do, right? Are we
Okay.
putting together a 311 solution, versus are we putting together just another case management solution?
Hmm.
And what is that case management solution supposed to do? What is the user experience supposed to do? Is it 5 clicks, 15 clicks, 22 clicks to get to the end of the form? And these are the kinds of skills, right? We often talk about human centricity in design,
Yeah.
but human centricity in design is quite nuanced. And as much as it is a science, it is also an art. And I think most people that are coming out of educational institutions today are slightly behind the curve because of the progress with AI. And you will hear a lot of the tech CEOs, including Jensen Huang, who talks about how computer science is not going to be a very good major to study in, right? Given some of the things that AI can do.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and you may agree or disagree, we always need to have sort of a balanced approach to education.
Yeah.
And yes, AI is going to be disrupting it. But irrespective of which major you choose, I think we'll have to go down this path of a major and a minor, especially when we start thinking about technology and technology centric majors.
Well,
Whether
and I
you're in
think it's,
healthcare,
yeah,
go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say it's a great time to be a generalist, right? I'm a generalist. I'm interested in everything. Um, but it's a good time to be a generalist because you're interested in everything. And then you can apply real world, like, a consultant. What is a consultant? Consultant, good ones that are strategic consultants are generalists. They can apply different tool sets to solve your problem. And you're right. That skill is going to be paramount as you try to use these very powerful tools in trying to get outcomes.
And the notion around jack of all trades and a master of couple, or maybe
Yeah.
five, is what's going to catch on.
Hmm. Wow. Well, Udo, that's a powerful way to wrap this up. Again, thanks for your time. I know we titled this AI and GovTech, the race to dominance. I think we hit on those topics. Dominance is going to be thinking strategically about how you use these tools, how everything fits together for your vision and your organization. And the tool sets may change, but the not so sexy pieces of this, the hard work behind process analysis, strategic planning, is going to be more important than ever because this is a fantastic chance to leapfrog all the inefficiencies that we usually talk about when it comes to government.
Yes. And if I can leave the audience with a couple of thoughts, I would say dominance in the public sector means having exceptional service delivery.
Yeah,
The service delivery
that's
that
it.
we expect from commercial entities, we as public sector consumers and folks that work in public sectors as service providers should prioritize service delivery and leverage AI to help us get there.
Fantastic. I'm going to leave the audience with some freebies here. Go take our AI maturity assessment. The QR code's on your screen. It'll take you through a great process on understanding where you stand today. And again, to Vidhu's point, it's not just about buying the coolest thing you saw at the last conference you went to. How does it fit? Are you ready? And that's what we're here to help you with. But with that, I am going to again profusely thank you, Vidhu, for taking time to join us.
Pleasure
I know
was
you're a busy
mine.
guy.
Thanks for the invitation, Avi.
Yeah, and we'll do it again because I hate to end this conversation here, but we'll see you soon. And thank you all for joining. And if you have any questions or feedback, our channels are always open. So thanks for joining. We'll see you again.